To be honest, I never thought I would be someone who could throw their head back and laugh in a group full of people. Someone who could let love in enough to feel safe and held by others. When I was younger, I would look at my older sister and her friends and feel alien to the way she was so effortlessly able to take up space and let herself shine. I was convinced that relating simply wasn't in my DNA. So I spent a lot of time alone, learning about my own heart and keeping myself in a safe bubble. But over time, I realized I could learn way more about myself by being in situations that felt uncomfortable, and have eventually gotten to the point where I can hold myself mostly anywhere and not only feel stable within, but also hold a deep level of awareness and love for others. Now I get to be the safe space I always needed in the world, and it feels like an unspoken superpower to help those I care for feel deeply seen and heard. Hello, beautiful people of the world. Would you like to fearlessly speak your boundaries, hold the most loving and compassionate space for your friends, be unified and confident from within? If so, this video is for you. Today, I'm going to be talking about emotional intelligence. While I still have so much to learn, I have picked up quite a few things along my path. To me, emotional intelligence feels like taking the information around you and alchemizing it to the highest capacity, having space around my reactions and responses. On the spiritual path, unconditional love is talked about a lot, and it's really important to have unconditional love for yourself and know that you are so worthy of respect, and that little forms of disrespect, little things that make you uncomfortable are so worthy and valid of being seen and rewritten by anyone who wants to be in your life. And I hear this a lot from friends, like, this really hurt me. I feel really anxious about this, but it's not even a big deal. Like, it doesn't actually matter. I feel so stupid or silly for feeling this way. And I just want to validate you in anything that you have an emotional response to does need to be looked at. And even if it's a little thing, if someone really cares to be in your life, they'll want to refine that and show up differently. So I wanted to share something that I learned from this emotional intelligence book, which I'll have linked down below. And it's just this method of speaking your boundaries and needs while also taking full accountability for your experience. And the acronym that this book shares is FFNR, Fact, Feeling, Need, Request. And this book opens up sharing a story of a woman whose house was getting broken into. There was a man on top of her, and she literally used this method. It kind of went something like this. The fact is, you're on top of me. I'm feeling really scared. I'm feeling powerless and out of control. I need this situation to be resolved and to find a place where we can both help each other out. And I am asking you to get off of me and allow me to help you through whatever you're going through. I would like to help you, and it doesn't have to be done this way. And this man got off of her and started crying, and she was able to get him help. I just think that's such a beautiful story. I get chills, and I probably didn't speak it as eloquently as she did in the moment, but she was just so scared and reverted to this method. So useful in day-to-day life as well. If you live with a partner, this is an example. I noticed that the dishes have grease on them and crumbs left over even after you wash them, and then I'm left to rewash them, and it kind of wastes both of our time. It just makes me feel a little bit frustrated because we both have a lot going on in our lives. I need my time to be as valued just as much as your time is, and I don't always have time to rewash the dishes that you've washed. So I'm asking if you can bring a little bit more mindfulness to washing the dishes so that I can just put them away and we can both do our part in keeping our home clean. That's a really simple way to frame things, and it takes your feeling away from the fact your frustration, your anger, your annoyance, or not feeling seen isn't actually the root cause of what's happening. So I really like stating the fact, like, this is what's really going on. But for really simple boundaries, I mostly just like to tell the person who I'm vocalizing something to that I appreciate them, that I love them, and that there's just something small that I feel that may be a result of my past traumas and my sensitivity. And if they want to be in my life, it would be helpful for them to bring more awareness to the way that they talk to me, or whatever your sensitivity or boundary may be, just first letting them know that you really care about the friendship, and that's why you're bringing this maybe small and significant thing to the surface. If someone does speak a boundary to you, I think it's such a beautiful thing to thank them. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. Thank you for caring enough about our friendship, about our relationship, to tell me when things feel off, to teach me how to love you better. That takes so much courage. Might sound really extra, but it takes so much bravery and courage to speak a boundary and a need, and there probably will be a time where you're in the situation where something small hurt you and you need to vocalize it, and it's so good to have that reassurance and validation that no, you're not crazy, everything that you feel is valid, and these little areas of pain or sensitivity are so safe to communicate in this container. Next, accountability. I think this is such a huge part of emotional intelligence, and I want to start off by really letting you know that any of your projections, any of your triggers, or the ways that you might have been reactive, the ways that you might have been not as kind, are also valid, because you're healing things from your childhood, from your wounds and your past. And I think that what makes accountability so important is that, like, you can own that you fucked up, maybe that you misspoke or didn't speak as kindly, and that you can have compassion enough for yourself to understand that you're not going to always get things right, and that there are different things that could have happened throughout your day that drained your energy and maybe made you show up not in your highest capacity. Owning that, being able to say, like, yes, I messed up and it was for these reasons, and I take full ownership of how I made you feel, is what will dissolve the tension. And constructive conversations should involve both parties taking accountability and having those I am statements. Some examples of emotional accountability: I'm sorry I responded that way. I can see now that I was just coming from a place of hurt because I felt jealous. Or, just so you know where I was coming from, I was so exhausted from my day and everything was pushing me over the edge, and I acknowledge that I wasn't speaking to you as kindly as I could have. Holding great space. This is one of my favorite things, and a quality that I feel like all of my sisters have so inherently, just wrapped up in the magic of who they are, is this spaciousness. And something that I feel is so respectful is asking permission before just emotionally pouring out to someone. And it can look like, hey, I'm feeling a lot, I'm feeling really triggered and heated, I really need to process. Do you have space to hold me through this? And personally, I love holding space, but there are times when I just know that I won't be the best listener, or I won't be just fully present because I have so much other stuff going on. And it feels really nice to be like, I can't hold space right now, but I can in 2 hours after I'm done with this deadline or task that I'm doing. And then both of you can show up in like your fullest integrity, which is a great thing. And if you do have the space to hold for someone, active listening is so important. Listening with full intent and picking up on verbal and nonverbal messages that they might also be sending, and not thinking about your response or what advice you have to give or immediately relating it to your experience. Really just hear them as they are. After they're done speaking, you can even reflect back to them what you heard. So I'm hearing that you feel really small and hurt from what this person did, or so I'm hearing that a really big change needs to take place in your life and you're not sure what that looks like. Try to sum it up and repeat back to them, but not in a corny way. So I'm an empath. I feel that you feel. Yeah, don't make it too like you're on a script. I had this one partner who, anytime I would share mostly anything, they would be like, thank you for sharing. And that would be the end of the sentence. And it just felt so inauthentic after a while. Yeah, I hear you. I see you. I can understand why you feel that way. And instead of offering advice immediately, be curious, be inquisitive, ask them to answer their own questions. Be interested in the learning here for them and for yourself. Like, if this is a situation where someone is speaking a boundary, instead of immediately getting defensive, asking more questions. This is one of my favorite things to do, because so many times when I'm holding space for someone and they're sharing and they're venting and they're talking for like long periods of time, they apologize. Everything you feel is so valid. There's literally no reason that you need to apologize. I love you. I have all this space in the world to hold for you, and literally everything you're feeling is so valid. You're handling this so well, and let's just continue unpacking it. And so I wrote down some really good questions that can help your friend or whoever it is unpack how they're feeling. What coping methods have really been serving you through this time? What do you need most right now? This is such a good question. If your friend is having an anxiety attack and you're asking them what they need, it might not be the best time. It might just be a good time to be resourceful, make them a cup of tea, put some healing frequencies on, and give them a massage if physical touch is their love language. So it just depends what the vibe is for you to ask them what they need. But a lot of times it is really helpful when people are spiraling. Do you think that these feelings could be linked to your childhood experiences? That's a way to guide people into their own accountability if they're blaming everything on others and you see that. What is your intuition really trying to tell you about this situation? In your opinion, what's the lesson here? All conflicts, all underworld experiences are here to shape our evolution and our dharma and mission here. And so just asking your friend what they think the lesson is really beneficial. Instead of projecting onto them that there's a lesson here, allow them to listen to their spirits and angels and ancestors and what they're offering. And also, if you do want to give advice, I really like to frame it in a way that's like, this is my experience. This is what happened when I was going through something like this. This was really helpful to me. Maybe it'll be helpful to you, instead of, you should do this. You need to do this. This is the right way to go about it. It's like, this is what worked for me. These are my tools. Next, I wanted to talk about where to source your own confidence and how to stay equanimous. And I think that it really involves a balance of time socializing and time with yourself and knowing what fills up your cup most. I feel like everyone is on a scale of introverted and extroverted, and it can sway depending on what you have going on in your life. Just knowing in each season where you're sourcing your power and energy. And I learned about myself that I, on one hand, am immensely introverted, and on the other hand, my introvertedness stems from a slight fear that I'm not worthy of being seen in all that I am. Coming into a room, feeling my power, feeling my capacity for love and depth, that made me really confident and has really helped me take up space. I know my limits. I know how much socializing I can take. I know when I need to leave. And I think having that boundary with yourself, where when you're in a situation you start feeling anxiety, when you just start to feel like you don't want to talk to anyone, that you just leave, and that's okay. And you take care of yourself in that moment, will also help you to show up to those situations in a really equanimous space, because you're not shaming yourself for needing time alone. Also, staying committed to your mission, to this undercurrent of energy that's guiding you through life, is so rewarding, and it'll just fill you up. When you're praying every day, when you're breathing deeply, when you're working towards something, I mean, that will pull you right out of depression too. Like, having something to live for and to fill you with passion, joy, excitement, having some alignment on your path and some trajectory is so fulfilling. And that for me makes me feel so unified and complete in my path. And then when I go out into social situations, I feel like all the validation that I need, I have, and it's the validation from myself, from my guides, from God, from the universe, and that's a different kind of bliss. That's the satisfaction from the deep listening, from being present. Also, immense validation of your softness and your fire can be really huge and important if you've had a lot of trauma, and if you are very sensitive, just having compassion for those spaces. Like, I used to really shame myself for not wanting to talk, for being quiet and shy. And I realized, you know what? If everyone knew my story, they would understand why I am the way that I am. And not everyone could carry these stories with the grace that I have. And not everyone could move through life with these experiences the way that I am. And so really just validate yourself when you're attaching shame and guilt to the way that you feel small, or maybe the way that you feel like you're too big or too loud. Just being like, you know what? My whole life I have struggled to feel heard. And so that's why I speak so loudly. Where I am right now is okay, considering all of it. I accept the stories that have molded me into who I am, and I'm gonna continue healing them. that voice, that conversation you can have within yourself is so powerful and beautiful. All the shame and guilt and aversion just creates even more heaviness to a feeling of sadness. Our feelings really are our allies and the guiding points of where we need to do more healing. And lastly, sourcing your confidence also just involves feeling stable and supported, having tons of outlets for love and light, and just surrounding yourself by a coven of light beings, filling yourself with high vibrational things, the media that you're absorbing, the books, the way that you talk and speak, vocalizing your gratitude so much more out loud, like, thank you, life. I love you, life. Thank you for the gift of this food. That will really fill you up. This needs to be addressed. Picking up on subtle energies in a room. I know so many of us are empaths, and we can literally see, sense, feel what everyone around us is going through and what healing they may need. It's like so easy to really see what energetic space people are in, even just by the way that they're breathing and the subtle nonverbal cues that we're always giving out. So what to do with this information is to mind your own business unless someone asks. Unless someone wants to unpack something, don't just assume that they do, and maybe just send them love, say hi, what's up, talk to them with extra tenderness. Basically, don't just give your opinion on a situation unless someone asks for it. What you can do with this energy when you feel different things going on in a room is to be the medicine for the people around you in a very unspoken way. If things are really heated and fiery, just be the water, diffuse the situation in your own presence, in the way that you're guiding the conversation. If people are feeling really sad, slow, heavy, maybe be a little bit more fiery, bring some energy, some movement, some inspiration and motivation for everyone. And these are just little subtle things that you can do to not just carry the energy of the room, but to influence it in a positive way. Alchemize what's going on around you. And you can also ask permission if it's a new friend or person, like, I feel really called to do some Reiki on you. Are you comfortable with that? I would love to offer a massage if you're open. And I just am going to answer some questions from Instagram because I asked you if you had any specific questions. Someone asked, how can you find a balance between recognizing others' pain and not letting it drown you, letting other people know that you don't have the space to hold, or, after like maybe 3 hours of holding space, just be like, okay, I'm feeling kind of drained right now. I think that we should do something to fill up our cup. I really appreciate you sharing all of that with me. Let's alchemize this. Let's move this energy and go and cleanse in some water, or I don't know, play some healing frequencies, do a healing practice. Instead of sitting in the weight and heaviness of everything, you can either move through that and release it yourself, or do that with your friend. Just do a practice, do some breath work right after. Do you have a healthy way to deal with anger other than letting it go? I think that before you let it go, you do have to address it, sit with it, see where it's coming from, try to find the wisdom in it, and whatever changes need to take place in your life. There's an opportunity in all of our feelings to do some healing, and even just writing about it. For me, I feel like the one area that I sometimes carry anger around is being consistently harassed by men and anyone who is intensely misogynistic and projecting patriarchal things onto me. That's when I just get really frustrated, and so I vocalize it. I don't spend too much time with people who are like that. I write about it. That's an ongoing point of rage and slight contention. And so continuing to raise awareness and to talk to male friends on how to hold better space to make women feel safe and things like that has been really helpful and constructive. And lastly, how to talk to people who are not open to their emotions. For me, what I look for in all of my relations is a commitment to growth and personal development. We can hold each other through different seasons. Whether someone is still immensely emotionally reactive or afraid of their feelings, if they are committed to learning more about how to see things differently, then I think that it's so worth putting that energy and presence into. But if someone is always bypassing their feelings, is consistently not able to set boundaries in their life, avoiding feeling, I think that it's worth bringing to their attention. It's hard for people to see that from their own mental landscape, but bringing it to someone's attention could be really powerful and helpful. Once again, being like, in my experience, when I feel heavy emotions, my initial reaction is to try and suppress them, but the more that I go into them, it's less scary, and I actually feel even more empowered in my sadness, in claiming what's there. And at a certain point, if you know that they're not committed to or open to seeing things differently at all, it might just be extremely exhausting. And it's not like someone is wrong or bad for not having emotional intelligence. It's more so the gaslighting and manipulation that can arise as a result of it. I think that it's okay to let something go that is repeatedly just disrupting your boundaries and repeatedly making you feel unsafe to express your own feelings. And you can set boundaries with family members. You can vocalize things in a very loving way to tell them, like, if you want to coexist with me, I think that I really need us to come together in a really clear space, and this is what I need. Anchor in the level of vulnerability that you wish to feel with the people in your life, even if you're not normally vulnerable with them. It's definitely something I'm learning a lot within my own family unit, that they don't necessarily know how to have those hard, uncomfortable conversations, but I do, so I can guide it. I can hold the space. I can anchor it down. You can't just obviously block everyone out of your life who isn't at the same emotional capacity as you, and I don't think that's necessary. Setting those boundaries, having compassion, and maybe creating distance if that is needed, maybe inviting them into other resources. Like, when you're really close to someone, sometimes you can't be the person that helps them heal because you're just too close to them and it might just annoy them. So inviting them to a yoga class, giving them the number of a really good therapist who takes their insurance, and bringing them to ecstatic dance, inviting them to the practices that have helped you heal a lot will maybe provide the safe space for them to go through their own journey. I have had to set really hard boundaries with people, with past lovers and people who used to be a really big part of my life because of the gaslighting. It's actually been really beneficial because then they've gone and done their own work. They've come to me and apologized. Sometimes staying in those situations out of compassion is just enabling that behavior even more. Those are just some jumbled thoughts on emotional intelligence. I hope that this was helpful in some way. It might not make sense just talking about it in a video, but it really is a practice. And I do think that emotional intelligence really is wrapped up in boundaries as well as just holding yourself in an equanimous space. It's just a little bit of everything I discussed in this video. And so I hope that you can use any of these forms of communication to refine your own relationships and the way that you share and speak and show up. Thank you so much for showing up and spending this time with me today. I hope to see you soon. And until then, please take some deep belly breaths. Cherish you so much. Bye.